everyone, or for some of you, good afternoon. This is our Cyber Society AICS scenario session, and I'm going to give just a moment because I see where some of you are still connecting to audio, and we're going to get started here shortly. Okay, so welcome to our Cyber Society AICS scenario PD today. I'm so happy that you're able to join us. I see some familiar names from earlier this week, so that's always exciting also. But before we get started, I just want to take a moment and introduce myself. I'm Charlene, and I have worked with the curriculum team here at cyber.org for about 4 years now. I have over 20 years of experience before that as a former teacher and instructional coach, and I truly love that I'm still able to support teachers here in the work that we do at cyber.org. I am coming to you this morning from our home office in Bossier City, Louisiana. It's 11 o'clock here, so I keep saying good morning. But I have my email listed here, and I do hope that you'll feel comfortable reaching out to me after this call. If you have any questions later on today, next week, next month, love to hear from you. And I'm also going to go ahead and drop my email here into the chat, so you'll have it there as well. Okay, so I introduced myself, a little bit about me. You know that our home office is Bossier City, Louisiana, but what about cyber.org? So at cyber.org, our vision is to build a future where the nation's cybersecurity needs are met by a knowledgeable, skilled, and a passionate workforce. And we believe that classroom teachers are essential to that process. Since the majority of our team is made up of former classroom teachers, we truly know and understand the impact that a classroom teacher can have. We have been able to train over 25,000 educators, and I'm excited that now you are a part of that number, and I'm happy to have you here today. All of our work, our professional development, our curricula, our resources, they're all funded through CISA, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and that means that we're able to provide all of our resources to K-12 teachers in the United States at no cost. So before we move any further, we'd love to know about you. So if you would please drop the grades and subjects that you teach into the chat. Oh, thanks, Valerie. Wow, that's a lot, 7th through 12th grade. K-12, wow. Wow, in the Cyber Society PD session we did yesterday, we had so many teachers who were teaching multiple subjects, and I'm seeing that again today. So thank you so much for what you do. I know it's hard having all of those preps. I remember one of my last years in the classroom, I was teaching middle school science, and then I had STEM applications 1, 2, and 3. So I had 4 preps, and that made for a really crazy school year, but it was great. It was the most fun I had all year also. Oh, and hi, Nicole, we're kind of neighbors. You're just right across the river there in Shreveport. So really excited to see this here, and just kind of to go through our agenda here. Just going to do a really quick brief overview of Cyber Society. We had that PD session yesterday, but AICS is one of the modules within Cyber Society, and then we'll do an AICS overview. And then this is one of my favorite things to do in PD is one of our AICS scenarios, we're going to do one of our shorter ones here today, which is Malpasset Dam, and you're going to have an opportunity to go through those documents in the briefing folders and go through the entire scenario with other attendees here in breakout rooms. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think you're really going to enjoy it. I love doing these. I love at the end hearing all the different responses. So we're going to go through each of those briefing folders, give an option if any of you would like to do a final presentation over what you think has happened, and then give you a moment to ask questions, look at our website, show you where to find all this in Canvas, and then we'll have an opportunity to get some of your feedback in a survey. So it's going to be a quick hour and a half, but it's going to be a really fun hour and a half too. So AICS scenarios are part of our Cyber Society course. And just a quick overview on Cyber Society, the modules, which you see here on your screen, law, politics, terrorism, all of those, they're designed to enable teachers to use liberal arts concepts and ideas as an approach to increase cyber awareness among older middle school and high school students. And these modules include a wide variety of topics. And they're designed to engage students in conversations and to think a little bit deeper. This is a very unique course compared to all of our other courses because it is not technology-based. It is liberal arts and conversation. And it's a really great supplement to when you just need to take a step back from what you're doing with technology and have students engage in discussion on these topics. So AICS stands for Analysis and Investigation of Cyber Scenarios. And just kind of a quick overview, students are going to take the role of DHS agents as they investigate realistic scenarios that are related to cybersecurity with potential national ramifications. The students, as they're acting as agents, are going to analyze briefing documents that are related to an event and sift through files and find what is pertinent, find that important information. At the end, teams have an opportunity to prepare a briefing statement to present on who they think is responsible, what the motivations were, and then what the United States response should be. I think it's really great because as students are presenting what they believe happened, you have an opportunity to question them, and they can't they have to have evidence. So they have to have some real concrete facts based on the briefings and the files, the documents that were in there to support what they believe has happened. So I think one of my favorite things about the AICS scenarios is that it relies heavily on students being able to work cooperatively with one another to work together as a team. When I was in the classroom, I primarily taught middle school, so it seemed like we were always working on those skills. And this is a great way to help students work on those skills and work as a team together as they're solving these scenarios. So there are 8 scenarios available to you in the Cyber Society course. And just kind of a brief overview so you're familiar with what they are. International hotel lockdown. On the morning of International Peace Accord meetings, a hosting hotel goes into an emergency lockdown, and they're trying to figure out what has caused that to happen. Catching the leakers, classified information from the U.S. Department of State has started appearing in domestic newspapers. Protest in Chicago, a mechanical bridge opens during protest, causing an uproar and many injuries. Aliens, a deep space transmission has scientists convinced there is life in other galaxies. I will say here that aliens is our most complex scenario, so this is one that you would want to spend a little bit more time on. Most of these scenarios are going to take between 3 to 8 class periods to do, and that's just depending on your students and their capabilities, but aliens is one that will take a little bit more time to get through. especially compared to the one we're going to do today, which is Malpasset Dam, and that's there in red. A mechanical failure causes a large hydroelectric dam in France to open and flood the region. The question, average time is going to be 3 to 5 class periods. Quasar satellite, the US military communication satellite, is suddenly falling out of orbit. Blackout, a national blackout starting on the East Coast, has links to Iran through a vulnerable software patch. And then the bridge, collapse of the I-270 bridge under the Mississippi River just north of St. Louis has DHS concerned about domestic terrorism. So if you were to go into Cyber Society and click on AICS, you would see here at the top these 4 AICS modules or scenarios. They're not in any particular order except that in the order, I guess, that they were created is how they're put on there. So you do not have to start with the first one before you move on to the next one. We're actually starting with the 5th one for today. But this is just a screenshot of those first 4, and you'll see that every one of the scenarios has a lesson 0, and that lesson 0 are the teacher notes. And then there are lessons that follow that contain more teacher notes and the briefing document. So with every new briefing folder that you release, there are teacher notes to support you through that. And then that very last lesson has a presentation rubric that you can use if you choose to when your students are presenting what they think has happened. And so let's look just a little bit closer at an example of lesson 0, which are going to be the overall teacher notes. So the notes are going to contain the objective of the scenario along with suggested rules that the team has developed to help that run smoothly in your classroom. And these are consistent with all 8 of the scenarios. So some key points here is that students are going to be tasked with coming up with a workable solution to this dilemma or this situation that's happened. The students should be the ones doing all the work, and the role of the teacher is to provide information and briefing folders. We encourage teachers not to help students try and solve any of this. Leave it up to the students, encourage them as they're working, but try and let them do the bulk of the work. There is a provided solution at the end of each of the scenario, but that's not really the goal here. The goal is for students to be able to work together to come up with their own conclusion based on their interpretation and the evidence that they found. Another really important point here that I really love is that the scenarios are entirely fictional. They do incorporate real world events, people, and groups, but students should not be able to Google the scenario and find out what happened. That's not going to help them. And we have teachers who do that also in some of our PD, and they quickly find, oh yeah, there is a Malpasset Dam, but this not the event that has occurred. So this here gives a description of the scenario for the instructor. It will let you know that solution. So you don't want to share these teacher notes with your students. And Joseph, this is located in our Cyber Society course. So something that I think I've taken for granted is that not everyone understands what a briefing is, and most of our students are not going to know right away what a briefing is. So it does help to explain to them that briefings are used extensively within government to provide information in order to help make decisions, propose a response, and prepare for meetings. So in our AICS scenario, we have briefings that are used to provide updates on an incident that is developing. So it starts with breaking news or some situation or problem that needs immediate attention. And we tell students that DHS is working quickly to gather evidence. And as evidence is collected, it is presented in briefing folders. And I have just a picture here of what I usually do if I'm doing an in-person professional development, or what I've seen teachers do with students is they print out the contents, it's zipped, there in Canvas for you. They print out what goes in briefing folder 1, and I just put a 1 on it, 2 and 3. And then I keep those separate because you're only going to give them one folder at a time. I had a teacher show me where she had her school secretary make a design for the front of the folders. Think it was a sticker or stamp or something that said confidential in really large letters. It looked great. And I showed that picture to my boss, and I said, I would really love to get a stamp that says confidential to make this look more authentic. And so she said, oh yeah, go ahead and order one. And so I found one on Amazon. And then when it arrived, I didn't pay attention when I ordered it because it was like this big and it said confidential in really little letters. So it kind of looked funny, but I think that's a really great option that you could do there to make that look more authentic. Also, this right here is just a picture of the contents of briefing folder 1. And this is the one we're going to look at today. It has a CIA fact book. So are lots of documents in there. And I think this is a good time for me to point out that you have two options here. One is to print them out and put the contents of the briefings, the documents and stuff into an actual manila folder, and the other is to upload them like we're going to do today. I've uploaded them into Google Drive, and you'll work out of that today. And there are a lot of great benefits to both of those. When I was in the classroom, I did not have access to unlimited copies, and so it would have been difficult for me to make copies of all of these documents and put them into folders with the intent for students to be able to write on them and take notes on them, sticky note, highlight, all of that. But I think there's a great benefit in having one copy of everything for a group of 3 to 4 students to look at together, because then it's really promoting those skills of cooperative learning, teamwork, sharing, listening to one another. And I think that is really important with these scenarios. But then on the other hand, I understand it saves a lot of time just to upload it online. Everyone can access it. If you have students who need that accommodation of having material read aloud, then you have that option there as well. And so both ways work great. And of course, you know what's best in your situation and with your students. And so we'll do one of those today, and you can see how that works with having it available to you in a digital format. And so what we're going to use here today is Google. And I'm going to go ahead and put the link into the chat because I want to make sure that you'll be able to access that. And we're going to go there in just a moment. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start the scenario now. You're going to see that the screen here, the background will change. When I've seen this done in person a few years ago, it was really great because we had 2 of our team members come in and they had hats on and sunglasses, really dark sunglasses, and the briefing folders in a briefcase. And they came in, didn't say anything, and really got into this role of being in charge of this case, since you are now taking on the identity of a DHS agent, and you have to solve this. And that was a lot of fun that way also. Okay, so welcome, analyst. This briefing will begin momentarily. Today's date is March 7th, 2014. Just some background information for you. Here is the location of Cattenom, France. And we have breaking news coming from the Department of Homeland Security. DHS has been informed of a malfunction at the Malpasset Hydroelectric Dam. Stand by for an update from your case officer. And we have this video here. Let me optimize sound for you.
I'm Diego Cartagena, and we have breaking news. At approximately 9 a.m. this morning, a large explosion occurred at the new Malpasset hydroelectric dam. A report from one worker indicates that the crew was able to safely evacuate, though one person apparently received minor injuries while making one last attempt to close the gates. They were unsuccessful, and up to 1 million gallons of water per minute traveled downstream, flooding the village of Catanam. The village is reportedly destroyed, with most homes completely underwater. No word yet on casualties, but we will keep you updated.
Okay, so you've seen this video that's included. You have kind of an idea of what's going on here. And this is where you would hand out that first briefing folder. And so in this briefing, you're going to begin combing through press releases and news reports about an incident at the Malpasset hydroelectric dam. There is also a transcript of communications between local dam operators and their headquarters in Paris. Your job over the next few hours, or a little less than an hour, will be to assess the scope of the damage and begin to gather evidence for why the incident occurred. Your job will be to identify what happened, who is to blame, why it happened, and then what, if anything, should be done in response. So at this point, you would hand out that first briefing folder, and I'm going to distribute that to you and put you into breakout rooms in just a moment. But I also want to show you before you go that each of these briefing folders in the teacher notes come with questions, and those questions can be used in a few ways. You can use them when you bring students back together and answer them together as a group. I like to give the questions, especially if I'm working with a younger group of students, I like to give the questions before they go into their small groups, because it can help provide some guidance for what they're looking for. It can be overwhelming if you're just looking at a bunch of files and documents and you're not sure where to start. And this can at least give them a direction that they can focus on. So 2 questions here as you're looking through this first briefing document with your group. According to the documents, is France a net importer or a net exporter of energy? And then what are some reasons that a major disruption in the European power grid threatens US national security? So a few things to think about while you're looking through these documents. And I'm going to give you about 10 minutes in your breakout rooms. And so let me show you here. All right, welcome back, everyone. I know that was a very short amount of time to go through everything that was there. But this was to give you just an opportunity to go through your documents together and discuss them so you could become familiar with it. I will say this just as a helpful advice, that I've seen students become frustrated after they have the first briefing folder, because immediately they understand what they've been tasked with doing and they want to be able to solve everything right then, and there simply isn't enough information or evidence for them to do that. So it's important to remind them that Department of Homeland Security is working to collect evidence, and at this time this is the only evidence that we have, and so it's their job to start trying to organize it and see if there's anything relevant or anything that's really standing out to them there. And then let's look at these first briefing discussion questions together. So according to the documents, were you able to find if France is a net importer or a net exporter of energy? And you can put in the chat or feel free to unmute.
It is an exporter.
I'm sorry, Joseph, did you say that it's an exporter?
Yeah, I believe we found that in the document.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. And that's really important for kind of the storyline here. So that's setting up students to kind of go along this path here. So France, according to the documents, is a net exporter of energy. And then this next question, what are some reasons that a major disruption in the European power grid would threaten US national security? Why would the US be interested in that at all or concerned about that?
There was a lot of questions about that. But the only thing we could come up with is that they're high in tourism and there may be US citizens there that may be affected.
Mhm. And that's a great point.
Also, the fact that maybe the power that they normally would generate that they won't be able to now might hurt allies in other countries near.
Also, I was thinking that possibly the economy, it would affect the market growth, global market economy, especially United States as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Peggy. Thank you, Raymond. Those are all great points to consider here. Some other things that I've heard, yes, that multiple US bases, US gets 25% of the nuclear uranium from France. Yes, so these are all really great things, and your students will have also different viewpoints and perspectives to share on it as well. So now moving us along to that second briefing, you're going to see here some information on how different nations are responding to this incident with the Malpasset hydroelectric dam, including the official response from the United States. You'll have access to email correspondence and text messages involving employees who were working at the Malpasset hydroelectric dam at the time. You're going to continue to collect relevant evidence. You may want to consider building a list of important names and look for possible connections between different people, and consider constructing a timeline of events. I did this scenario with middle school camp last year, and something that worked really well for them, this was in person, is I'd given them sticky notes and highlighters, and on the sticky notes, I had them put events on them as they saw them in the documents, and then they were able to move those events, the sticky notes, around to put them in order, and that helped them to visualize a little bit better what was occurring and when it occurred. I mean, I know you can do that also with some technical tools, but index card sticky notes, that helps to organize information as well. And so here's just a visual of some of the contents in that second briefing folder. And I've moved the briefing folder into your shared Google folder. You'll just probably have to refresh it to make sure you can see the contents of briefing folder number 2. And we'll do about 10 minutes again. And the question that we'll answer as we come back together into this room is, what differences, if any, can you see in how each nation responded to this incident with the Malpasset hydroelectric dam? And Raymond, I think I have you right as we move into breakout rooms. If not, just let me know, but I have both of you in the same breakout room now, if that makes sense. So refresh the Google page, and you should see briefing folder 2, and I'm opening up those rooms now. Okay, welcome back, everyone. So probably have an idea, a better idea of what happened, and possibly even an idea of who might be to blame. But before we discuss any of that, anything to add here with any notable information that you may have seen and discussed on how the nations responded to this incident? Anything stand out to you that seemed odd or even a little suspicious?
The EXE, water EXE, and one of the emails attached, and the interest between Ivan and Maurice. And Maurice telling us getting his family out of the village.
Yes, that water EXE file, I believe that was attached maybe in an email, is very suspicious. Anyone Oh,
I
yes,
was
go ahead, Sue.
I was just sort of making a joke about it, but when I was reading through all the nation responses, Putin has rerouted tankers, and cha-ching, cha-ching,
Mhm.
to drive up the need for Russian oil.
Yeah, that kind of stood out, I think, in some of the other um, responses from nations that they are creating more of a need for themselves. Anyone else? All right. So there is one more briefing folder with this scenario. And in this briefing folder, you're going to continue to receive news reports detailing the international response. And you will also gain access to a set of confidential financial information that pertains to an employee at the dam, as well as bank records of close relatives. At the end of this briefing, I'm going to give you an opportunity if your team would like, if feels comfortable presenting kind of what they think has happened. And so you can compose a response using evidence from documents to make an argument. And teams must justify why they think their response is the most effective way to respond to the incident. And we're looking for 4 things in particular: what happened, who did it, why it happened, and then what should be done in response. Now, there aren't very many documents in this third briefing folder, so there is that extra time. It won't take you all 10 minutes to go through these documents, but there's extra time for you to discuss kind of what you think has happened in those other 3 points. And I also included these pictures here from a teacher PD I did a while back. And the teachers, as they were presenting what they thought had happened and their evidence, they took the printed documents and they just put them up on the wall. And you can see they took, for whatever reason, we always carry around electrical tape with us, and I had red electrical tape in my backpack, and so they used that to make connections between certain documents. You can kind of see where they have some things highlighted and circled and some notes written down. So they use their documents as they were showing what had happened. And here is another group that they just took a whiteboard and kind of did the same thing. They gave themselves a name and they were pretty excited to call themselves Dam Investigations Incorporated. And they also drew arrows and made connections. You can see some of the sticky notes there and some of their pictures as they prepared to present what they believed had happened. So there are different ways that students can kind of present this. I like to give them just a sheet of easel paper, chart paper, and let them write what they think happened there. I had a teacher share that they felt like they wanted all of their groups to present, but when they had 6 groups presenting, it got a little kind of monotonous. And so what the teacher did instead was gave them an opportunity to record what they thought happened onto Flipgrid and then turn it in that way. And then they would just randomly pick a few to show to the entire class. And that seemed to make the students a little bit more comfortable. So I thought that was a great option also. I love hearing all the different ideas. But the third briefing folder is inside the Google folder. So you'll just refresh that. We'll do 10 minutes again. There aren't any questions to this folder, but instead you're going to focus on trying to figure out what happened, who was responsible, what the motivations were, and then what, if any, response should be from the United States government. So that's third folder's in there, and I'm opening up the rooms now, and I'll see you in 10 minutes.
Hi, Charlene.
Hey.
My apologies. Something came up. I know this goes to 1:30, but I have to leave a little bit early. My apologies.
No, thank you for letting me know, Joe. Joseph, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
this is great. If you can, if you want to email me the survey, I'd be happy to do it. I think this is a great class. I'm really feel bad that I have to leave early.
Oh, I'll email that to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'll happily fill it out. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
so
good day.
much.
Thank you for
You
joining
too.
us today.
Bye-bye now.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. So you probably have a pretty good idea now. Had an opportunity to go through all of the documents and discuss them with others in your group. Is there anyone who would like to share with us? Let me go back a few slides here. What they think, what happened, who was responsible, the motivations behind it, and then what they think should be done in response. And perfectly okay. If you're unsure, I am going to give you the suggested answer here. So I'll give you just another moment of wait time. All right, and let me advance my slides. I have a warning slide to stop so I don't get happy clicking through here. All right, so what happened? As will become clear in the documents, the Malpasset hydroelectric dam was sabotaged by an employee at the dam who was working for agents of the Russian government. The Russians wanted the dam to fail because the electricity that the dam produced cut into Russian profits on oil and coal exports. The Russians identified an employee, Maurice Babin, whose mother had fallen ill and was in need of money, and they bribed him to carry out the sabotage. Babin's involvement should become obvious in briefing 3, but one key document in briefing 2 should tip you off to Russian involvement. This document is an email to Babin from Ivan Smirnov, in which Smirnov offers best wishes to Babin's mother during her recovery. You may also notice that the official response from the Russian government was to increase oil production to compensate for the loss of hydroelectric power to the French Euro power grid. So again, that is the suggested with the writers of the scenario. That's what they had in mind. Students for this scenario usually stay pretty on track. Out of all 8 of them, this one I think is the easiest to follow. And as I think I mentioned earlier, it's also going to be the one that's going to take the least amount of time. So if you're unsure which scenario to start with, I always recommend starting with Malpasset Dam. And so I want to make sure that all of you have access to this. So I'm putting into the chat a link. It was in my email to sign up for curricula access. It's on our website, cyber.org. If you have signed up and you haven't received access yet, we have a small team who processes those applications. They make sure that we're staying within our grant guidelines. And I always encourage to sign up using your school email address, but you'll receive those credentials through the email that you've registered with. And then right next to sign up, you'll see login. You'll enter those credentials there. We do encourage you to change your password after you get logged in for the first time. And then you'll see this dashboard. As soon as you log in, we have our content divided into elementary, middle school, and high school, and you can access Cyber Society either through the middle school tab or the high school tab. I just selected high school here. And then you'll click on Cyber Society, which has the image of the buildings on it. So again, that's Cyber Society. and then you'll see AICS there at the very end, and that's where you can click and you'll be able to find all of the content for the 8 AICS scenarios that we have. Okay, so some next steps here before I stop the recording and send the link for the survey. Again, thank you for joining us today. Look out for an email from me. I will let you know all of our recorded PD will be placed into a course in Canvas, so you can access it there, and you can get everything by going to our website, cyber.org.